certainly in the rental side, which is your hold strategy, like there's not enough housing for the rental, in my opinion. And definitely down south, because we have a lot of people that we know that invest down there, and they can't provide housing quick enough. I think the buy prices or the values are changing just due to, you know, people being nervous with the Brexit. It's the uncertainty. But the changes, no, to me, I'm very much like, well, if the house prices do plummet, well, I'm going to buy loads as a business. That's going to be January sales time for me. It's either a hold strategy or a sell strategy or both. So it's about analysing what's going on at the time. And then for me, in my experience with like our HMOs and our multi-units and like serviced accommodation, things like that, it's very different because it's not residential value anymore because it's a business. So they value it in a completely different way. So we're not looking to go, so for example, you've got two properties. This one was sold for 100, this one was sold for 150. So this has stayed a 4-bedroom terrace. This has become a 6 or 7 bedroom HMO and is now valued at 350, 365,000. You've more than tripled the value of the property. This house would never sell for this, but the reason and what this doesn't have in the square footage, comparing it to maybe a massive detached dwelling down the road that's worth $500,000, it has in income, because it's now a business generating asset. So when we're refinancing them, remortgaging, we go to a commercial bank, we get a commercial refinance, and most of the time it's just because we want to pull all the money out we've originally invested, so then therefore creating an infinite return asset. So that to us doesn't bother us what's going on in the market. We've not certainly noticed a difference. I've definitely not noticed a difference in regards to our commercial value on our dwellings, because it's a very different situation. But residentially I can understand, and maybe even on the buy-to-let.
I think no change, because it's like we always want to account for corrections. Some are more major corrections than others. I mean, history will tell us anybody that there's always ups and downs, but generally it is up. I mean, there are people that say they can predict, and there's been situations where in hindsight people look back and they said, well, I said this and I predicted it. I mean, I get all of that, but whatever happens is what it is. So we just make sure when we are investing that we're investing in a way where there is demand, and we know that any change on that, like, it's not going to happen overnight. You know, something like all of a sudden everyone needs to move out. It's not going to work like that. I'm assuming, but again, I can't predict that. But history then shows it's a period of time where things go. So we're set up in a way where we can adjust the buildings that we own. We can adjust strategy. We can configure them differently.
Yeah, we have at least three for every deal. And if we don't have 3, then we don't buy it. Like, one property was changed 3 times. So we had a idea, we were going to buy it, renovate it and sell it. So it was going to be a very quick project. Then we ended up having a 5-month delay on the completion of the purchase, even though it was through auction. So it should have been a very quick thing. But because we'd drawn down the money from our investor, so this was a full investor deal, and we only agreed 12 months to have their money on, we were like, oh God, you know, we've got to renovate it and then sell it, and that's all got to go through to be able to pay the investor back. So then I thought, well, I'd been monitoring the market. The second strategy was to have it as a hold strategy. And I'd been analysing the market the whole time and realised that actually it would work very well as a HMO. So what we did as soon as we completed is then I said, right, it's no longer going to be a sell strategy. We're now going to turn it into this style HMO, and we need to do it as quickly as possible, because I knew the renovation time plus the refinance time was going to ensure all the money was back to the investor on time, with his percentage on top. And actually we've made a lot more than we would have if we'd have just done our original plan. So it worked out really well, and it should have maybe been strategy 1, but again, it was an untapped area. I think we're one of the first HMOs in that area.
In terms of like dealing with change and something happening in the market, We want each deal to stack up by itself and support itself. But if you run it as a business and you've got multiple projects going on, it's built into the strategy, it's built into the business plan that, hey, look, if this happens here, then we know that this, can cover that over there. And that's happened loads of times. Like one project's not turned out the way we needed. So like there's one or two other projects with the profit and the income that makes that can either save or subsidize that. I mean, we're doing it right now as well. There's two that are right next door to each other, and we're financing one to help fund the other to finish the completion so we can sell that and so on. No.
So we have.
That'd be an accounting nightmare.
We do have a few limited companies, but that's because we have different investment partners. So if we've done like a joint venture, for example, we'll have a limited company with that joint venture partner, and then we own multiple properties with them in that same company. Our accountant initially, when we set them all up, when we first started, she said have 10 as a max in each company and then set up another one. Because then if anything was to go wrong and that was seized, at least then you've got the other ones. And I was like, that's a strange way to look at it. But then actually it makes sense.
It doesn't matter about 10, 20 or 50, because at the end of the day, if people structure it in a way where it's like, look, okay, something might happen with this one here, but because of the success of the other ones, this covers this. So it's not like you're defaulting. On the paper, okay, this one is a loss, but overall there's still a gain, and that's why doing one or two projects over a longer period of time, which people say they want to take it easy and slow. I think that's more, and they do that because they don't want to, because they say, oh, it's too risky taking too much on. This is just my point of view, but I think it's risky going slower, just doing few. Because if something does happen, unless you've got somewhere where you can go to fund it or go into your own pocket, which usually the case is not, then you're in trouble. But if you've got more going on, number one, you learn a lot quicker because more, learnings, feedback, what's it called? Like mistakes, they all come your way quicker. So you learn quicker. But then it's like economies of scale, isn't it? You've got so many projects going on, you've got teams. I mean, how many times that we've got teams on one thing that can help us out because, we've not managed to hit deadlines or something on another one. So I think that whole scalability, and that goes back to your original question, is that when you're operating like this, even when things are going fine in the marketplace, fine, things can still not go to plan. But then if something happens in the market, it's not about, the way I see it, I don't want to rely on the way the rules, the regulations work or what's going on in the economy. I don't want to have to rely on that. I've been in the building trade and I've set up businesses before and things change. And it was disaster for me. So I'm not going to make those mistakes again. In 2008, when it crashed, I was basing myself I was only a young kid at the time, and I was basing myself going off to do my own, work. But when I was like 19, 20, I looked like, 11 years old. And, people weren't investing. So my strategy was that, people are making money in the market and they're going to pay me, to do it. As soon as the downturn in the market and people that weren't doing that didn't work anymore. So then, so we don't want to do that.